Okay, you're looking to buy a home in the Orlando, Florida area. Well, what do you look for? Look, if you're not used to buying homes in Florida, like I wasn't when I first moved out here, then you better listen to this video because I'm going to cover everything you need to know about buying a home in Florida, in Orlando. And I promise you, it has nothing to do with like the typical stuff you hear with. This is the down and dirty truth. Let's get to it. Okay, what's up everyone? My name is Cameron Hans. On this channel, I talk about making the move to and living in Orlando, Florida. I drop videos for you every single week, and I absolutely love it. But what I love even more, as well, is being a licensed real estate agent in the state of Florida, is helping you with the real estate decisions when making the move to Orlando, Florida. All right, so getting into it, what do you need to know about buying a home in Florida? Well, first, if you're going to buy a home, this number popping up below is how you can get a hold of me. Call, text, email, doesn't matter what you do. I'm here to help you in that process to make sure you get everything done that you need to. Now, shameless plug set aside, getting into it, so look, if you're not used to it, let's say you're coming from a state on the West Coast where it does rain a portion of the year, but overall, it doesn't have the inclement weather that Florida does have. Well, you're probably not aware of a lot of things that you need to when it comes to just owning a home in general in Florida. A big thing is if you're already used to the home buying process, searching for a home, if you're coming from an escrow state, escrow, or in this case, title does everything in Florida, same concept. It's pretty similar in a lot of ways. Your inspections, your appraisals, all that junk. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we're not worried about that. What we're worried about is what do you look for in a home, right? And I'm not talking about the area. I'm not talking about, oh, do I need a pool? Heck no. It's things on the home that really can make and break your life when getting into a home here, right? So a big thing is, a lot more homes are probably more common going to be on septic. Not always. Obviously, you have communities and you're central in the city. It doesn't matter. If you're like me and you went into Polk County a little bit, then guess what? My home is on septic and sewer. Or not sewer, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said sewer. It's on septic and well. So if you're getting a home that has those in place, you need to make sure you're getting those inspected. Or, rain damage is also a real issue. I mean, a lot of times, thankfully it rains so much here, especially during the summer months if you're looking for a home. But, roofs are a big thing, especially when it comes to insurance costs. The age of the roof can really make or break you when it comes to your insurance costs. Or if it's not done properly up to code, with strapping for hurricane protection and stuff like that, it really can just derail you. I mean, I had a friend even up in Pensacola, Florida, on the Panhandle. This is before I moved to Florida, but it's a good story. I love telling it. So he was buying a home, and the roof was not done properly. It was not strapped down. The shingles weren't strapped down. It was just a complete disaster, a complete cheap job that the seller had done just to get the home for sale. Oh, new roof. But once they got it inspected, the inspector's hey, you need to look at this. Boom. All of a sudden, his insurance dropped thousands every year. I think it went to $3,000 a year. It's completely insane because because the roof wasn't done properly. That's a huge hit in Florida. Not to mention, if you are getting a home, you've probably seen some stories, or if you haven't, this is your first time you're hearing it. Insurance can be a pain in the butt getting in Florida, and it's definitely not the cheapest insurance state by a long shot. I mean, we have hurricanes and stuff. It's expected, and I don't know if I see this problem getting better anytime soon. So making sure you have the right mindset up front is very, very smart. Also, if you have a good insurance rep, it's usually what I tell most people is a good insurance rep can also look in the last several years if there's been any insurance claims on the property, which is really important. You really want to look at that because obviously being in a place with so much rain and water, a small leak or damage can just breed mildew and mold like crazy. It's not good, right? It's not like California or Phoenix where you might have I've seen people have buckets with raining water for years and the damage is minimal for the first 5. It's insane because it doesn't rain there and it's not that humid, it's just dry. So it doesn't get as bad as it would be as even coming from New York and stuff like that. East Coast, whole different game, especially in Florida. So you really have to keep an eye out. Also, if you're in a flood zone, you really have to understand a lot of places are in flood zone. It's Florida. So understand that that's not only going to talk about more insurance costs, but it's also you need to be aware of what kind of flood zone is it? Is it a 2-year flood zone, 3-year? How often does it flood? Is it every year? Is it every time it rains? Thankfully, like I said, it rains so much that probably during a 30-day escrow or title, when you're closing on a property, guess what? It's probably going to rain at some point so that we can get eyes on the property and make sure that there's no leaks and major things like that. But obviously, thankfully with Florida, it's really evident. Obviously, if you're coming from most states, termites, huge issue. Yeah, whatever. You really have to be prepared for that. But a big thing, obviously, is here is you need to make sure the home is sound and structurally sound. And this isn't so much for people that are already living on the East Coast. Like this is old news. But for people that are coming to Florida, you really need to be aware of the fact there is so much more damage that can happen to homes. Thankfully, like when we moved here, like obviously we built a new home, whatever. But when you're buying a resale home, you really need to make sure that it is done properly, because like the smallest thing can just breed years and years of issues. So even when things get replaced, get it done the right way. And if you're in the process of buying a home, make sure the seller gets it done the right way with a licensed contractor. And unfortunately, like license is, that doesn't mean it's the best one. So you have to make sure you get things done properly, because like especially when it comes to roofs or like flooding or mold and mildew, like everything can get out of control extremely quick. So if you're used to a dry state, hey, welcome to Florida. It rains, it's humid as heck. You really have to make sure things are done. Also, you're probably like everyone else, like we live on AC here. So if you're getting a home, make sure you're aware of that AC, because like if you're getting like an extremely old, not taken care of AC unit, it really can make and break you. Because like, yeah, I mean, even in like Phoenix, Arizona, like it sucks. And I've lived in the heat without AC, especially working in the military. I was working on a tarmac, so on a flight line in like 125 degree weather, not on top of the blacktop. So I had to be like 135. It's insane. Oh God, miserable. But I can tell you that humidity here, it really gets to you, especially if you're working from home or just even when you get off work. Like you just want to have an enjoyable home. So make sure you get that done. And also, like if you're up for it, make sure you get that yearly or twice a year inspection of the unit. You really need to make sure that stuff's taken care of, because like I said, like it's man, living in Orlando specifically and Florida, like there's more to owning a home here than a lot of other states. Like I said, not really East Coast or the North, but if you're really come from like the Southwest, you're really cushioned when it comes to home problems and stuff like that. Like you really have to worry about like major structural problems, or like you really have to try to not take care of a home there, right? In terms of like safety and things like that. But here on the East Coast in Florida, a lot can go wrong. So you really want to make sure that you kind of take more of a keen eye to that. Also be aware that even if you're buying a home, like make sure you maybe it doesn't hurt to start saving some money to get the upgraded windows, to make sure things are done properly, because you will be using AC a lot, and all of that really adds up to utility costs, and it's not the cheapest utility cost in the country by far. So all of that you need to be aware of before buying a home here in Florida. I'm not trying to discourage you, not trying to say, don't do it. Like I love this state. Homeownership is a American dream, and you really need to play into that. Make sure you do it properly, but realize that when you go to all the inspections and all the stuff you normally do, and like maybe if you're from like one of those other states, is even more important here. Just like it is over there, but it's really important here. You want to make sure it's done right. And if you are someone who's like, maybe you're moving to Orlando and you're like us, you find like, look, we want to get away from the city a little bit. I don't want to be in the middle of a suburb, like where I'm coming from, especially in California, like the whole thing's a suburb. And I really want some space for my neighbors. Look, you're probably going to have well and septic. You have to make sure you're okay with that, but also understand if you're not used to owning a home that has those systems, that's a whole nother game in inspections and making sure that it is in good operating condition. Because again, it's just an added thing you need to be used to when coming out here, because a lot of homes have it. Not obviously you're looking in the city, you're fine. Sewer, like normal water, that city water, that's normal, right? But for I think there's a lot of people like me and us that we wanted to get some more space for my neighbors. And when you do that, it doesn't take long to be in a position where you are now on well and septic. It just is. Also, maybe that does lean into getting a new home built, and maybe that's something you should consider when looking to buy a home out here. And I think the last thing I want to talk about is, so obviously being in Orlando, there's a lot of water in a lot of places. So like most homes are probably going to be near some kind of body of water. And what that means is there's going to be alligators in pretty much most of them, if not all of them. So you have to understand that if something that really concerns you, maybe you should be conscious of where you live, right? Because obviously we're next to a body of water, and yeah, they're there, and realize that that's just a way of life. But you need to be aware that if that's something you're trying to avoid or whatever, like that, again, that plays into where you're looking for a home. Also keep in mind, it's Florida. So if you're near a body of water, you're probably in a flood zone, regardless, because you're close to water. If a hurricane comes through, a lot of rainfall, it's going to rise, and that just, the insurance company is probably going to make you get flood insurance. So keep in mind that that's an issue that plays into it. Also, but keep in mind, if you're like looking to get lake living, you don't necessarily have to live directly on a lake. There are a lot of places around Orlando that have channels and waterways where you can have a boat dock on your property, and that has access to the lake. It might be like, a good distance of a boat ride to get to the lake, but there are a lot of ways for you to get lake access, maybe for a better price. So keep that in mind if you're coming to Orlando. I'm trying to think of what else, but that's really the gist of it. Those are really some big things you need to be aware of. It's mainly for people that aren't from here, that have never lived on the East Coast. They're really cushioned when it comes to weather. It's not a bad thing. Just understand, it's not a matter of if you go through a hurricane living here, it's a matter of when. So if you get ahead of the ball, you make sure the home's taken care of before you get to that point, that it starts at the home searching process. Starting from the beginning, making sure you're getting a home that maybe doesn't have many issues, or if it does have issues, make sure you kind of can either get those paid with during the closing process, or you have a plan to pay for them afterwards. Because like I said, the smallest thing can just really cause a lot of pain for you in the future. So starting from the beginning, making the right plan, it's more than just looking for the right home. It's making sure you know the ins and outs. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some insight onto, what to think about when buying a home in Orlando. Like it's more than just finding a home, knowing the area, like what fits your needs. All that's well and good. It's understanding the actual house itself. There's a lot more that goes into it, a lot more damage that a home can sustain being here in Florida. So understand that comes into, probably paying more for inspections, making sure you do your due diligence. It's not like you're in a place that doesn't have rainfall. There's a lot of rainfall here, it's humid, the mold, the mildew, all that adds up to making sure things are done well, and realize that you're probably going to incur more home ownership costs than you would in a lot of other places, especially, it's not a matter of if, like I said before, it's a matter of when a hurricane comes through and you're gonna have to deal with some kind of damage. It's irrelevant. You're gonna have to. So if you're looking to make the move to Orlando and you need help creating that plan or knowing what you need to do and making the move out here, this number popping up below is how you can get a hold of me. Call, text, email, whatever you have to do. I have your back. I'm moving to Orlando, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.